Good afternoon, Mr. Green. How are you?
Good, Miss Campbell. Good to see you. What's going
Good
on?
to see you as well. Thank you for making time for us.
Yes,
To introduce yourself.
I am the one and only Tyrone Green, but in a professional space, I am a residential real estate broker here in Chicago, whereas I help both sellers and buyers in the marketplace to either find investment properties, primary residences, as well as incorporate some versions of commercial real estate into my book of business as well. I can help find places for businesses, tax write-offs, things of that nature under the real estate umbrella. I've been doing this for a little bit over 6 years. I consider myself to be a well-versed professional in the space for sure, because I've seen a lot of different things, occur in this space, and I've helped people reach a lot of different solutions for different problems that came up during their encounters and transactions. Yeah, and I'm also a real estate investor. I'm a landlord here in Chicago. Cook County is where most of my investment properties are, and I've seen a lot of different things in that space as well too. I've been able to be on both sides of the real estate business, right, from both an investor as well as a real estate professional, as a licensed real estate broker.
And are you on social media as well?
I am on social media.
Tell us what your plugs are. How can
Okay, you can find me. I try to make this as easy for everybody, right? Before I give the individual handles. If you want to look for me, my professional website is my first and last name, www.tyronegreen.com. That's Tyrone, green with no E on the end, green.com. But for the most part, if you're looking for me and trying to, get me into all different spaces, it's Tyrone E. Green, right? Because there's another Tyrone Green somewhere, but it's not another Tyrone E. Green. You can find me on all social platforms looking up Tyrone E. Green, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all those different things. But if you want my unique handlers on Instagram, you can follow me as She Calls Tyrone.
Oh, she called Tyrone. Okay.
Yeah, they better not be calling too much, man. I am a married man.
Okay, thank you. I was just about to put that plug out there.
I,
Yes, don't call
I
too much.
don't call you call professional purposes only.
Exactly. Do you frequent social media? Are you familiar with the fads and the different things that come across on social media?
I am for sure, for sure. I am. I think it's something that's all too common these days, right? As we like to say, a lot of the stuff that's going on, a lot of the clout chasing, a lot of the clickbaits and things of that nature, what have you. Yes, I am. I am there.
Have you heard of I don't know if it's the latest, but it's the one that has been going on for the longest, that all you need to do to get rich is get some property and fix, flip, rent, whatever. Are you familiar with that?
I'm very familiar on both sides, as one as a consumer and one as a professional, right? My phone can't stop ringing with people that fall victim to a tagline or one of those posts that's used to generate business from other professionals in the industry like myself.
Oh, now that was a very loaded saying. Like, oh, we're jumping into it. You said fall victim to. Tell us why
Yeah,
you said that. Wait a minute.
yeah, I mean, I think that, just with respect to other people in their business practices, I think that different individuals learn different sales tactics, right? Is what I would call it, right? The objective is to get people into their ecosystem, your first name, your email, your information, or just pretty much get you, you know, drawn into what it is that they want to get you drawn to. They got these posts that says you too can buy a house with no money down. All it takes is for you to put a Section 8 tenant in your house, and you'll be set for life. And all these different things that people use to draw one into the business. The only thing about it is that I don't think a lot of people look for the factual data behind it, right? And the people that understand that it may work from some, but it's not a one scenario fits all type of thing. When I say fall victim, is to say that, what they say, I seen what you did for others, Lord, can you do it for me? Is that, some things are unique to certain people. And I think people just use it as a method to just say, hey, man, maybe you're not a good fit, Tyrone, or ex-realtor, or this person, attorney, or lender. You can't figure it out because it's possible. You just can't do it, when in reality it's other outliers as to why it don't work, and why it could be something somebody could fall victim to.
The reason why I picked up on the word fall victim too is because I do think it very much is a victim. Like, I think it is what I would say half of the story, so to speak.
100%.
It's not the full story. It's not the surface of the story. It is just a small part of what is possible. Like, if you wish upon a star speak, like, you're a landlord And everybody's like, okay, like you say, you put a Section 8 tenant in, or if you get a tenant, or if you get whatever the case may be, and you're just fast, free and can do whatever. And it's like, not fast. I don't necessarily think, but nobody wants to really hear the negative side
Yeah,
because I am kind of doom and gloom. Would you agree? Like, you're like,
yeah,
you think I'm a little doom and gloom, don't you?
yeah. You know what? Let me plug. I got a book coming out, right? But I also got a tagline. Y'all can't steal it. It's trademark. My new logo and slogan that I came with a few years ago that I'm about to start like advocating and communicating a lot more is that I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to tell you. That's my slogan. Like I'm not trying to say I'm trying to tell you because I'm stating the facts. Like at the end of the day, whatever decision you choose to make, like I don't got time to be trying to bait and switch you. I don't want you wasting my time. Like it is what it is, essentially, right? People don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, like first and foremost, you can pass or fail Section 8 inspections. Not everybody with Section 8, the program pays 100% of the rent, right? You have something called tenant portions. Tenants that's on Section 8 can be, liable to be evicted as well, just like a market tenant, right? Because they may have a portion that they don't cover, or they may abuse the program and things like that.
Let's pause before you get even into those very, very specifics. You talked about one part about an inspection. I think that that's very telling that people don't talk about because all they just make it seem like, oh, you can just get a Section 8 tenant and you are in gold. Well, you have to get an inspection first, right? And
Yes.
what is
Yeah.
that? What is that even an inspection? I don't even think people know that you have to get an inspection. Like your property has to be inspected and up to a certain level, not just oh, okay, you threw some gray
Yeah.
wall, some gray paint on the wall and think, okay, they just gonna let
For
anybody
sure.
live there. What well,
For
you
sure.
have experience with the Section 8 inspection. Have you ever had one?
I do, of course, a big part of my portfolio is subsidy holders, and I have my reasoning in certain categories for that. But however, to answer the question, yes, I have experience where I've both passed Section 8 inspections and I failed them, right? And I think it's out of all my experience in all these years of having Section 8 tenants, I probably only passed on my first try once, right? Because in certain cases, it depends on the inspector how it's times I feel like they send me a general contractor. It's like, damn, why they inspecting this house to be rehabbed? Or, and what I mean by that is that if the grass is too high in certain capacities type of thing, like, I failed for broken screens, something as small as like broken screens, right? I almost wish I could just bring up some examples. I had some on one property, I had the staircase. When you go up the stairs, it was carpeted stairs and it had like a small little hole in it. And they considered that to be a trip hazard, exterior cracks. If you have something that may need some tuck point, I'm talking about even just depends on what they can see. That was considered to be a hazard, right? We talking about from you have your meters outside, like your gas meters. If those are rusted, which you wouldn't even think of, like, hey, this is a gas meter, belongs to the gas company, people's gas. If it's rusted, it was considered to be a potential hazard for those tenants. Yeah, like it's more than you may have a immaculate interior unit, and they may ding you on things on the exterior, right? So it's different things that you should be aware of when it comes to that because no, it's not just that easy that you're gonna put a tenant in. And if you get inside it and you don't have the financial means to do it, that's another barrier as well too, or the resources.
And
Yeah.
that's right there. And that's why I wanted to talk to you. And that's why I wanted to bring this up and put this out there, is because I do think that people are sold half of the story. They sold the glamorous part, not necessarily the part where I remember that you had a tenant. And I want to say whatever property this was, it was like right before COVID. And I remember us talking, and like this tenant was horrible and did
Yeah.
not pay.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like did not pay for years. And I remember you like being so frustrated about this
Yeah.
process. But
No,
then you
listen,
remember
yeah, I listen.
when you were buying this property, and I was telling you like that they gonna be a problem. Like they wouldn't let you in, they
Yeah.
wouldn't do this, like they gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, because if this and da 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 da, it's better to have people in there and yada all of that stuff. I
Yeah.
don't want to find nobody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, look, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
always remember because you called back like during COVID and you was like,
Oh my God. That's an
oh my
important point.
God.
It's an important point to make though. Whether you located in Illinois or whatever state or municipality, know the laws, right? Know what is allowed. Because when you take you and your personality type, if you crazy, crazy, yeah, you can end up in jail, right? doing things a certain way, and in certain cases that it could be more detrimental to your liability and your assets and things like that if you're not conducting your business, because this is a business. Real estate investing is a business. If you're not conducting your business as such, and for me, early on, what you're speaking to is like I knew what, or I had an idea of what was black and white. If this person, listen, if this person paid X amount of rent, it covers this portion of the mortgage, which will help me in regard. But a
But
lot of this
let's
stuff,
pause there. But let's pause there because I think that that's really important because when you're thinking about being a real estate investor or, how you pay for this or what is sold to you is that you could put tenants in there and live
yeah,
in one unit and rent out 3 units. And then if you're like, okay, this huge mortgage amount, I might not. I mean, I got qualified. I can, but I don't want to pay this big old mortgage amount. You know what I mean? I
100%.
think that makes when I bring that up, I'm not bringing it up to judge you in any kind of way, but I think that experience is very important because
Yeah,
that's what you're sold. Like you're not
yeah,
sold, okay, but what happens if they just decide
yeah.
not to pay? And now you absolutely got to pay
Oh,
if you don't know
100%.
the
So, yeah, 100%. You got, and then again, that's another thing too. Like it's we can go into so many different sub categories about this subject, because you got to, whereas is that, oh, you want to buy a house with no money down, right? Don't mean that you shouldn't have any money saved. You
Mm,
want to
thank you.
you
Yes.
you want to have these easier entry points, which is good to get in the business. That's not what we discouraging. And again, not understanding that things come up, right? New cars, new houses have recalls, they have issues, things of that nature, right? And what happens is that it's like you say, you just half of the story, right? In the event that you have tenants that's paying, but then what about when they move and you have to turn over these units, right? So you have to put a part of what would maybe considered the profit and proceeds back into the same investment, right? The money you thought you may have accumulated by the end of the year. And that's another thing too. Like, some people live off their money immediately, and then the minute the furnace go out, they're like,
I don't have
whatever. But you
anything.
gotta
Exactly.
you ain't got anything. Just when you confine these people that may not be living the life, and when I say the life, meaning like actively investing in these things or in the same place as you have to be conscious and cautious at the same time about what is being told you, because a lot of this stuff is, like to say, the half truth about you being set for life. Because again, new buildings become old, right? You got stuff that just happens, right? You got new people that just bought houses that was done with plans and permits, and pipes are burst because you don't have preventative maintenance techniques and tools in your toolbox. You know what I'm saying? It's just like so many things that comes up in this business where you just not being told the full story. Several professionals that may either not know how to properly communicate it to you, or some people that may be intentionally withholding it from you. We're not pointing out anybody, it's just the reality. Some people just
Let me ask
may
you,
be more
what do you think?
transactional.
What do you think? And I think that that's important too, because I don't want to put it like it's on the professionals, and I don't necessarily feel like it's on Instagram or the people you listen to on Instagram, because I do think that they're sold and they want the clicks. And the more things that you're saying something positive that people want to hear, the more traction goes to their page and their stuff goes up. And so I'm not necessarily telling you that it's anybody else's
Yeah.
fault that you might not know these things, but I do think that before people jump into it, that they need to know it. And I wanted to know, what do you think? I don't remember if that was your first building, but just saying that it was, whenever it was your first building, what do you think would have or could have been said to you at that time that would have been beneficial?
Hmm. See, I'm one that try to take as much accountability as possible. So I'm not looking always to praise, blame, or not. I was gonna say, but getting to the point, what could have been, there are property management classes and stuff that could be taken out there. What could have been told to me differently from our professional team, or just throughout the naysayers and
Well,
throughout?
from whomever you might have wanted to hear from, because I do think that because many people, you're doing something dynamic and people will say certain things that you feel like might be pissing on, your Cheerios or whatever to say for us,
Yeah, yeah,
certain things. I want to know, like, how could have been said or what could have been said, if anything. And because some of the stuff you had to learn through experience. I will say that,
for
like,
sure,
some
for
things
sure.
I do believe you have to understand it how you understand it now. I think you had to live through certain things, of course. But I just want to
Yeah,
know, like, what do you think could have been said, if anything, to prepare you for what you were going to go through?
I I think like when you look at the basic fundamentals and principles of advice, would be like some small stuff like I focus on the quality, not the quantity. Like my first purchase was a 4 unit, right? And I was focusing on at that time buying the biggest thing I could buy within the residential spectrum with the loan type I had, which at the time was FHA or Communicate. And like Brittany was mentioning, I had a certain type of tenants, right? I'm focusing on what would have been cash flow, right? When I ended up with 3 out of 4 bad tenants. So people would have, if I would have listened more one to the advice from my counsel and not being subscribed to internet investors or people that actually didn't invest at all, that was one of the things that I wish I would have just like really like listened to, right? And then at the time, the advice would have been people that just telling you to really understand like what was going on in the area at that time, understanding what was going on in Cook County as far as eviction laws and what was actually permitted and not. I wish people would have talked to me a little bit more about that, things like that too.
But you do know that your that time, when I will say, which was kind of interesting, and we did not have, it was not any beef or any kind of bad back and forth at all about these things. It was more, I want to take a risk because I do think that, like, you typically listen to people you pay. I will say that, like, you're not one of the people
100%.
who pay people for their expertise and be like, I'm gonna just go my own way. So you're
Right.
not that type of person.
For sure.
But
I
I do
watch my
think
money.
that yeah, like why am I paying for somebody I'm not gonna listen to? Like
Right.
that don't that's not wise. I do
For
think
sure.
that you
For
are very
sure.
wise typically in that vein. I didn't know what was to come. I want to say that was maybe 2019, late 2019 or something like that. Nobody knew
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
to come in 2020. Like
For sure.
those little situations, it just seemed like a problem to me when we were going through. I'm like, that's a problem. You might want to get them out. That's a problem. You might want to get them out.
Yeah. I think like what could have been told to me, like, and it's me jokingly saying, but like again, I think to a certain extent within this business, you got to have a lot of transparency and some vulnerability, and especially when you
Oh
confide
yeah.
in a profession that you trust. If somebody would have kind of told me as well, like act your wage, right? When I say act your wage, it's like, hey, Tyrone, if X was to happen, can you afford to carry this mortgage for 4 to 6 months? You know what I'm saying? Or certain things like that too, just for certain people.
That's a hard conversation to have because I'll say from a professional to a professional, but even with the respect and
Yeah.
the dynamics, I think people might say like, "Who are you?" You know what I'm saying? Like the funny things,
Yeah.
I will try to different things. Like they seem like a problem to try to, kind of sugarcoat or make it more palatable for you
Yeah.
to, for you to start thinking about. Because I don't think that a lot of people can just tell you not to do this, even if it's your attorney. Like, no, I don't think you should do that. I know, as being an attorney for however long I was at the time, if you just tell people, nah, that's stupid, they're gonna revolt against you because not usually saying that's stupid, but just even trying to go against certain things much. But like at your age, I could never. Oh my God, I would never
No,
say
you gotta
that to
act
you.
you gotta act your ways, man. And what I mean by it, it's like for me, it's like translating to like how in certain capacity, like certain situations, your parents allow you to bump your head. And what I'm trying to tie that to is essentially like some people are either gonna bump their head or some certain professionals are gonna essentially say, this is how I run my business, right? And be more, you see people, be a lot more strict, have a much more strict program about who they accept as clients and how they accept because they want things to function a certain way. And at the end of the day, each person or consumer had the ability to make whatever decision they're going to make. But I do realize that for those people, in certain senses, what I can see from my lens, when you overeducate somebody, it's kind of frowned upon in certain categories where people just want what they want, right? You see people walk into the dealership and say, "This is the car I want. This is the house I want. Can you get it from me?" And then when they realize, like, "Oh shit, the taxes shot up," or "Oh shit, like this is going on, that's going on," and they like, "Why didn't I? I did. You were just saying that I want what I want. I side on the line." For people to just
I
double down
did.
and say, like, "Look, this is the way I run my program."
I've helped people with a whole lot of different things and just like contracts. And I'll tell them, like, you don't write contracts for the best situations to come to pass. You write them for the worst. You don't say, like, if you can pay something off within a year, just say, you don't say, I'll pay you within a year because that's the best case scenario. If the best case scenario come, you don't need a
Right,
contract. You need a contract for the worst case scenarios. You write these
right.
things in mind. But I will say that most people will buck against. And I've had to tell people certain things like I'm not your slave. Like, I'll do it, but you pay me for my advice. Because the worst part about it is that when this go bad, a lot of times nobody with the integrity like you, because I think that that's a lot of things. Most people be like, "Well, I never knew nothing."
It's easy to put the point to blame and all this shit. Like,
Yeah, and it's
you,
like, what?
it's your phone on them foreclosure, huh? Yeah.
Exactly, like,
So
and I think you add all of these other like racial dynamics, because I believe that there's some certain things that maybe a non-colored attorney could potentially say to some of my clients. I don't think personally I can, that people would take, you know.
for sure, for sure. I mean, I feel like there's so many things. Like the reality of like what we're talking about here is that be, people be debating switch right in real time, and it's like I think that we, as of the last few years, there's been a big push for lifestyle marketing, right? And I think it's the shiny object syndrome, which has allowed people to capitalize on people's vulnerability or certain situations, because we didn't see on the other side of it is like, in some sides, what you may see on the attorney side is like, you're not seeing where this influencer or this person in this sector is being sued behind the scenes because the misinformation and or promoting fraud. You know what I'm saying? Oh, moving to this building, say you live here for a certain period of time and they're not categorizing for what it is. It's fraud. You know what I'm saying? But so many different things that people not telling people because they don't hear it. It's like, look, bro, I don't want to hit it. I want what I want. You know what I'm saying? I've worked with clients like that. Look, Ty, I ain't really with that. And if it don't align with my moral compass and stuff like that, it ain't the client for me, because certain stuff I don't want attached to my name. You know what I'm saying? I think
For sure.
it's times where you got to double down and say, look, bro, you ain't the client for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they say, all money ain't good money, but some people are just like, look, bro, you know they're gonna be a headache. They're gonna come back
Oh,
later.
for sure.
They're gonna be asking the questions after the fact that could have been discussed as aligned and arranged during these buyers consultations, during these different things that I have in my business, and I'm sure other professionals have in their practice, but people just like, look, skip over all that, or they lie. I already know that. I already know that. Let's just go see. Let's just go see. Because they like, look, bro, I'm just trying to get to the end zone, and this clock is ticking. You know what I'm saying? I done had somebody wipe my credit on. I need to buy this house before something pop back on. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different things. I don't hate the player. I mean, I don't hate the game, but just understand that if you playing the game, bro, like, hey, don't be a man when you get blew out. You know what I'm saying? And the
When it
blowout can happen
happens,
in different ways.
I tell people about my job, you get to think about the best. I don't get to think about the
Yeah.
best. You're not paying me to think about the best. Like, I don't think that people really
Right.
understand that part. If everything goes to plan, you never need to see me, bro. Like, not even lying. Do you think that
Right.
people created lawyers because
Just
everybody
shake a
was
hand and we
together?
good.
Right. Like, you could just do a
Yeah.
handshake. Exactly. No, you need people like me, because worst case scenarios happen, and they happen for sure. I think like it's hard when you're trying to have integrity. I think it's hard when you have seen so much stuff, because at this point you've seen much personally and professionally with how these transactions go down. If somebody comes to you, you like, it ain't really gonna play like that, honestly. And they think
Yeah.
you just don't know what you're talking about. And you were getting into that. Tell us
I
more
think
about that.
I think the reality of it is that when we talked about earlier, just the vulnerability, transparency, and things of that nature, is that online, when we look at these online spaces, whether they're social media platforms, websites, all these publications and stuff, people are more often showing you the good, right? That's reality. That's not new to us to know that people are going to show you the good more than the bad. And in certain parts of people showing you what may be considered the downside or the bad, either people are looking at them as either they failures make them a failure, they failures, rather than saying like, oh, they just didn't do it right. Because if he would have did like this, it could have been like this. No, life experiences, everything, what's the word? Adversity is a part of the process and journey, right? So people have to understand that everything is not going to always be 100% the way you want it to be. When people talk about those things, you have to pay attention to say that, hey, certain things happen. Like you say, real estate market comes in cycles, a global pandemic, things like that, right? That's one of it. And then you also realize that, like, again, when people talk about the downside of things, and they may have used, like what we're talking about, to say, hey, these people are lying to you in certain capacities, you looked at as a hater, or you looked at as somebody that's trying to knock someone's hustle. And to some capacity, if you're the one that's a part of the hustle, just accept the hustle. Like, people are hustling you, like, right? You expect people to have integrity, good intentions, but in reality, that's not always the case, because once the transaction is closed and once the deal is done, some people do say, hey, look, man, hey, you didn't read the fine print. You know what I'm saying? This is my opinion, not my, not law, not factual advice. And that's the thing too. another thing that I'm talking about, people are not taking the feedback from qualified individuals, right? People that, people, I'm saying those things too. When we talk about it, this in as a whole, there's so many different things where people just like, hey, I don't want to hear the downside of it. But the reality of it is that, hey, things can work out and they don't. But why not know what's the alternative is? When people ending up in jail, when people are ending up without, when people not even, and that's another thing too, like, the last thing I'll say, because I don't want to go off on a tangent, because this is something that I feel bad for a lot of people that fall victim to this stuff, is that not everybody that they glorify about, you can do this, you can do that, get to the finish line, right? Of the 30 people that saying, hey, I want to buy a house for no money, like, how many people are actually getting, closing? How many people are closing on these deals? Yeah, you close on that house for $0 down, and the next day the pipes freeze and they burst, and your insurance agent didn't tell you about certain coverages, or if this wasn't protected, or certain things are in place, and now you already upside down if you're not purchasing right, or purchasing with the right intentions and things like that. Yeah, I'll stop right there. Like, this is something that goes on and on.
It does. And the funniest thing about that is, for me, I don't necessarily know how you can make a decision to probably buy one of the most expensive things you're going to ever purchase in your life without knowing everything, or attempting to know both the good and the bad, right? And
Yeah,
so I realized that it could be because of my profession that I think like that. But I was always that kid, like, okay, well, what's the other side, right? Because if you even go
yeah,
back to regular situations, when people will try to give you stuff, you'll be like, what you want? Like,
yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
I take this shiny object, or even from when we were kids, hey, the guy that's offering some candy might be trying to snatch you. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
hey, what you want? What do you want?
It's
Right.
transferable for sure.
I just wonder why it doesn't go that way, right? It does most of the time. Like, I'll say, one of the things that irritates me on another thing that irritates me on social media is get an LLC. Everybody talks to me to get an LLC, and I'm not gonna bog us down about getting an LLC. We
Get
don't
an
have to go down
LLC,
that.
open up a bank account, get a $100,000 line of credit.
Yes. Oh my
You
God.
good.
When I tell you, that irritates me to my core, because what people don't realize is that now you're a business and you have to operate as a business. If you get sued, you can't go into court for yourself, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a business.
Well,
Like, all of these things you cannot do because you're operating as a business.
you got my mind going. One thing I would say, like, another thing, when you say, I wish somebody would have told me, or along those lines, just about the information online. And I'll tell you some of my what's the word, challenges, and some of my mishaps in the business. One thing I wish somebody would have told me about more on is paying my taxes, right? And I'm gonna speak on it, right? As someone that's bought a house with, the traditional route, right? When you pay your real estate taxes, it's escrow, right? That's the option I have. My taxes I paid, my property tax I paid when I pay my mortgage, right? It's escrow. However, the business aspect of it, because my property was, I was deeming it as an investment property. And the way I had to file my taxes on my investment property was a little different, right? If you write off too much money, it can impact your ability to purchase in the future. And if you don't write anything, you can owe taxes, right? The downside, like Brittany talked about all the time, is like, hey, if you don't pay your taxes, you got liens, you got garnishments, you got all these different things that people not speaking on, whether that's opening your LLC and generating revenue and then not filing your taxes appropriately, or letting the wrong people file your taxes, and those different things. Like, it's so many different things from that business standpoint that people don't even talk about. Filing your taxes, even paying your annual filing fee. People are like, oh, I got an LLC. Then they look it up and say, man, this thing been damn near dissolved. It's been, bro, you ain't paid the filing fee in 6 years. They done dissolved this. It's like, you know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
and
Like,
it's gonna cost you almost 1,000 to get back. I always feel like it's also simple. Why would you undertake these kind of things without getting an attorney? And
yes,
like, and of course, I'm like, I'm not talking about for job security, but I am a very much person that if I want a haircut, I'm not gonna cut my hair myself. I'm gonna go to a barber. That's the
yeah,
type of person I am. It's not like I ain't never was the one who colored my hair. You know how some people be like cutting and doing all this stuff. That wasn't
yeah.
me. I wasn't that person. It's like
Get
I'm
the right
gonna
person first.
go. I'm gonna get the right person for a job.
Yeah,
And if I can't afford that, then I'm not gonna typically do it. Like,
right. Yeah,
that's just me. I probably seen enough as a kid, like I've seen enough. I
yeah,
don't
for
need,
sure,
I
for
done
sure,
seen your hair fall out with you trying to do that. I'm not gonna do that myself.
for
Okay.
sure.
When I when I think about those things, and I always just wonder, how can we make people know that, yes, this might not be, you might have to pay somebody $200 for a consultation. Some people do it for free. I'm not saying that that's necessarily, but okay, you might have to pay $200 for a consultation. Then, like, if you are not willing to pay the $200 for that consultation, then maybe you shouldn't undertake this situation, because the downfall be downfalling substantially. I don't know how to say that without sounding horrible or sounding like it's for my own interest because I'm an attorney. It's like, you don't even got to
Right.
use me. But what I say is, I've seen many people.
Right.
A lot of this stuff could have been avoided had we decided to discuss with the proper people about like, when people say, well, how much this house worth? I'm not a market analysis. You have to go holler at a realtor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't list. All I'll tell you is, I wouldn't look on Zillow, and not skilled at market analysis. You have to go to the people to get that done. Tell me about that. Tell me, what do you think the bar is?
I think the bar for me, from my perspective, is that, like, what's the law, right? And when you think of laws, like, what processes and procedures can people put into place to protect their investment, right? Themselves, which would be their credit, their livelihood, their building, a product that they're acquiring. And if it was, in certain cases, I'm gonna speak from two sides. In certain cases, if they say, okay, in order to buy this house, you have to undergo a mandatory accredited hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you got to get an hour of training about ownership, things like that, which also can help you be a better owner, right? You can realize how to, what things you can do as an owner and what you can't, type of thing, but also how to help you to prevent these things. And then you see it on the other side in some small sectors where, if somebody giving you some, I don't know, money advice or something along those lines from a program, in some of those programs, they make you sit through certain classes and certain things, like, hey, look, if you want this assistance or aid from over here, then you're gonna have to undergo this. Like, you're gonna have to sit through these boring classes, because I think that's the reality, is that a lot of people want a lot of this stuff to be easy going and to be fun. And I think the reality of a lot of this stuff is, if we're going to talk solely about real estate, I think real estate is not fun per se. I don't personally think it's a fun thing. I think it can be. You have some aspects of it that you can find what they say beauty in the struggle. But for the most part, I think the real reality of real estate is not always going to be this fun, easy roller coaster that most people want to do. Now, granted, for those people, you got to understand who you are and what type of investor you are. For the people that I think investing in real estate for tax write-offs, they'll buy an abandoned building and let it sit for a decade, because it's doing what it needs to do. But for those people that's trying to accumulate the wealth from buying one house and you creating generational wealth, I think those are the people that's having one of the hardest times in this, because they realizing that, yeah, it's not always what it's cracked up to be. When you think you're
Buying
gonna
a
just buy
house.
one house,
Buying a
you're
house
gonna buy
is
one
not
house
generational
for
wealth.
the rest of your life.
Look,
Because what happens
that's the
when
key right there. Buying a house is not generational wealth. If you don't fix up this house, there's no wealth.
they
That's
mad
the
at
part.
grandma's house, and it's like, bro, you've been in grandma's house for all them years, and now when it's time, you talking about the salad and all this stuff. Y'all ain't help grandma fix them pipes. You ain't help grandma fix that roof. When every time it was a leak or something, you let Unc fix it like this. No, I tell people all the time, sentimental value and appraised value is two different things, man. You go in that house and say, but we redid the bathroom. I look at it like, no, that ain't a rehab, bro. that ain't a rehab. You did some updates and jokingly saying, but it's like me different reasons why, like, no, bro, like, that ain't, no, it ain't gonna do it, man. And people be surprised. Like, I sit down with sellers all the time, like, hey, I want to sell my house. And they just like, it should be worth this. I say, bro, this like 2 times the size of your house. Your house is not of the same, saying, condition. Caliber, you got to use those choice words. They think, again, going back into the professional, because going back into what we talking about, people selling them and they being misinformed and misled. In my profession, it's a fact that certain realtors will take on what we consider to be overpriced listings just to get the deal. But that's the same person that got to have this conversation with you every week to say, we got to reduce the price again. We got to reduce the price again, because they wanted your business on the front end, and this is how they went about it, rather than just telling you the truth and allowing you to make whatever decision. And they realize that more people will work with you for your honesty and your integrity than when you manipulate and lie, because then that's how you find transactional people. I didn't got the daughter, but then I did horrible. I didn't realize that the brother was looking to purchase, the mama was looking to purchase, the uncles, the aunts. And more people don't look at it like that, right? They look at the transactional piece of it, and it's like, nah, you didn't ruin the whole relationship trying to close this deal, right? And that's how, when they say, I tell people in these meetings, like, to be honest with you, Brittany, this one transaction is not going to change my life. Like, I'm not going to burn you for this transaction. I'm not going to ruin a relationship. But if I can do good with you and do good with your relatives and support for your sphere, that'll change my life. That'll make me wealthy. You know what I'm saying? Make me, that'll, you know what I'm saying, have an impact. I tell people like that one deal alone ain't going, I'm not going, it's not worth it for me to, you know what I'm saying, just get, you know, at all. Like I'm not going to do that. That's not my type.
For sure. And I can appreciate that 100% because I also tell people like, well, this person say this and they person say this. I always tell people I'm the lowest paid person at the table. If I tell you this, it's because it's for your good. Whatever the fee you paying me, let's be very clear.
Hey, look, I don't
It's
know if
a
we got to
minimus.
look, do we got to get into the psychological piece of it? It's like, I don't know.
I
I
do.
mean,
I
listen,
do think you do.
some people just be like, look, just leave me. You know what I'm saying? Cover the eyes and leave me. It's like, then it's like, I think those people sometimes feel bad, like I was saying earlier, like when people do take advantage of them, because it's like, I trusted you. It's like, did you just give up, you know what I'm saying, your traditional instincts, did you choose not to ask certain questions? Did you literally turn a blind eye that unfortunately people will do this and people will prey on you, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, like, and that goes for every profession. Like when they say, okay, well, interview more than one realtor. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not offended when somebody tell me that I'm gonna go somewhere else and I'm like, how dare you? Like, you know, no, weigh your options. Because when you
Well,
come to me, I expect you to understand that when I say this is how I run my business, that you running with me because you felt like I was the best person for the job, not because I manipulated you to come over here and I steered you by these different things. I think that I try to lead with, you know, my hard work and, you know, my integrity. Like that's how I try to run my business. Then when people say, oh, you do own property, you know, you drive these cars, like, no, I'm not leading with this. You know what I'm saying? This is a shock to you, but like, no, I didn't reel you in like that.
for sure. I think that that is the case. Like, because I'm not shocked either. I'll tell anybody. I said, if you don't trust me, this is gonna be a very hard relationship because it's gonna come down to a certain thing that when I say certain things, it's gonna have to be what it is, right? And if you don't trust me when I say those things, you're not. It's like I always tell people, if you don't trust your brain surgeon, baby, I would think you shouldn't get brain surgery. Okay, by that
Yeah,
surgeon. And it's the same thing in every profession. Like, but I do think it's the psychology. And I don't think that people are realizing that a lot of stuff comes down to that. How somebody made them feel. They made you feel like you're smart. And oh, I might have said something that offended you, but I wasn't attempting to offend you. I didn't even know I
yeah.
offended
It wasn't
you.
an attack. It wasn't an attack.
It wasn't an attack. It
It's
was just
just like,
like, what if I ask you, what are you gonna do if the water heater breaks and you are the landlord? Now I'm calling you poor. And it's like, I
well,
didn't
you
call you
asking me,
poor.
why you asking me so many questions, man? Like, just do your job. Just do your job. You thought that, see, that's the thing too. And that's also, and it goes in different ways too. Like when people like when they say like in our business now more than ever, we got to communicate our value, right? Then you got really to explain it like listen, you know what I'm saying? One, I'm not an attorney, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm not a lender. Also letting people know like what I am not as well. But what I do in my business is more than just open doors. I'm not also afraid to tell you like, hey, I will walk away. You know what I'm saying? Because that's another thing too. A lot of people tell you like, what would you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, I don't have to live here. Let that be clear. I don't have to live here. But if it was me and there was a concern about mold being here, then I would have a mold test. Like letting people know, like I'm not gonna be like, it's a little piece of mold. You cut it out, you'll be good. And then now people were in the basement getting sick because it was more like you can die. Like I don't want that on my conscience. Like, damn, you heard about something about the house we used to have with mold? Yeah, because that's the other side of it. The rehab houses that people secure is not always done with integrity, plans, permits, supervision, inspections, etc. It's just a part of the business. It's not for us to lie and wear it down. It's just the reality of it. Like this is the business. You know what I'm saying? Understanding the business that you in is that people are not gonna tell them themselves. Like, you know, a lot of people are just, you know, financially driven. Yeah.
And the law makes it to where you don't have to tell on yourself, right? Which is why when you do the inspection and different things, it's a part when you're the buyer that you're not supposed to send this inspection to the seller unless they specifically ask for it.
Request.
Why is that? That's plausible deniability. That's plausible deniability all
Yeah.
day. Because if this contract falls through, the next
Yeah.
time I still could say, huh, the electrical is messed up. I had no idea.
I had no idea. They
Yeah.
trying to cheat. And which they
Okay.
is. You think they know? You think they not? They be like, I see a report. You bet not. You bet them people be like, you bet
Look,
not. I ain't look,
ain't
yeah,
say nothing.
yes. Every day, it's so many different things in the business. And like I say, I don't, it to be honest, it did used to rub me the wrong way because you got to understand too. You say it's the shiny objects, and it's like for somebody that came from poverty, like let's speak on it. When somebody that came from poverty and I see somebody that looks like me that made it or what I consider by as success and stuff like that, if you're not grounded, right? This goes back to the psychological part of it. You got to ground yourself in these transactions, right? You got to ground yourself, understanding your risk tolerance, your pain points, your focusing your decision making skills. When people like, if you know you ain't the best decision maker, you know what I'm saying, use your support, rely on your team, you know what I'm saying? Because in real estate, it's not a one person thing. And the thing that's different between where we are and other places, not everybody has to use an attorney. You have that privilege to have an attorney. I'm gonna say a privilege.
Come on
Here,
now with the privileged word. Come on
you
now.
have the privilege to use a professional attorney, where in other states they not using attorneys.
And these people are getting
People,
screwed. Like, and you get
they
screwed, and
getting
your realtor
screwed. I'm
don't know
not,
nothing. And then you just left holding the bag. You ain't did a mortgage contingency extension. Then your loan get denied. Your realtor didn't do it because that ain't their job. Let's be very clear. Nowhere is that the
yeah.
realtor's job. And then boom, now you on the hook. And the people want you to specifically perform on this house and purchase it.
They they buying houses I'm hearing in other states that was set to be demoed. You really bought a vacant lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You bought a vacant lot, didn't even know, you know what I'm saying? You go to the house, they like, yeah, we're gonna be able to tear it down tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And then also the other side of it is like, you know, I think we live in a world where everybody focus on the gross and not the net. You got the checks. I made this from the, you know what I'm saying? I made this from the deal. That attracts people, right? And I will say this too, though, because I just seen this for the first time yesterday, and I don't know it because it's from a legal standpoint. I was watching Wall Street Trapper, who focuses on like investments through stocks and things of that nature, and he was explaining how because he has such a big brand or such a big following, some I don't know if he said his attorneys or some professionals basically telling him you can't keep posting, well, you something along the lines, you shouldn't keep posting your real estate, I mean, your stock portfolio because it can look like coercion or something like that, where you telling people that I am indirectly telling people that I am successful by doing this. Now you can move the market and shift people's brains to think that if they listen to what you say, then they will too get this. Like it does go down so many different ways that people don't even want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Like, nah, bro, I don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? I want the play. I want the sauce. I want the play. I want the sauce. But people trying to really come up and step up and say, listen, I can make a whole bunch of money off you, but I'm not like that. I'm gonna tell you this is what you should do. You know what I'm saying? But people don't want to hear that. Like they be like, look, just take me where you gonna take me, man. Listen. I tell people all the time, real estate is more than closing photos, man. Listen, you close them up, but you get them. You ain't gonna take no pictures. With my gift, you know what I'm saying? What a gift that. And it's like,
do that again.
not a
Do
word.
that again. They want to do what? Do that again.
That's all I want to do. I'll be damn. I done walked in some deals. I got camera crews on me. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Now,
and as a professional, it make me feel some type of way at times too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, damn, am I not stepping it up? I ain't calling production crew because that's the way and environment we in. Like about the last, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about people. Then they got big Louis Vuitton bags that's empty because it's all photo ops. Like you can be misled. That's what I'll say.
you can absolutely be misled. And I also always feel like you're taking away from what this really is, right? Like at the end of the day, when the camera crew go home, this is your house, right? And that's what I always want to tell people. And what I always tell, if everything goes back tomorrow, it's your house, right? Like when everybody goes home, this is your home. Yeah. I wouldn't just post a picture of where I live on the internet. Like I wouldn't. Like, okay, I can take it of where this was, you know, technically at the title company. I'm okay with those kind of pictures, but people want to do it right at the final walkthrough when I understand that. But this is still your house. Are you crazy?
I will say this. I'm gonna let you guys know something too. I want to pub this in too. If anybody that's watching or listening in, you can call the listing agent for that transaction and ask them to call the MLS, like the MLS where we post the properties at initially for most properties, and ask them to remove the interior photos and the address off the internet. And also people can do it for Google too, where you type in a certain address and it fades out the house and stuff too. For those people that are like that, like, hey, I don't want my, people, listen, bro, people can learn how to break in your house off some of these photos. You got video walkthrough. Absolutely. I know what every door is in this house.
I think that's the part for me is like, you got this production crew. You want this to be, oh, the dopest thing on the internet. But let's be very clear. This is now where you permanently reside, so to speak, assuming that this is not commercial or whatever. Or If it is commercial, sometimes it's even worse because if somebody looking for you, now they coming after your tenant. It's one thing I want to go back to because I do think that you hit the nail on the head when you say I come from poverty and all of this is new. I think for you to even have this dream, it had to be like you had to defy certain odds of what people was telling you was not feasible either, right?
Yeah.
If it's almost like a very hard like needle to thread to say, is this person trying to educate me or is this person trying
Mhm.
to douse on my dreams again? Because I do think, and I want you to talk about that, like how do you think, if at all, you can decipher without burning your hand that this person is just trying to tell you that the stove is hot and not trying to tell you not to cook, if that makes sense?
A lot of these times I can speak from firsthand experience speaking about myself. I think for me it's the communication. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Like it's basically like I listen to it all and I try to make a conscious decision. And if it's something that's above my pay grade or my knowledge base, then I do tune in to other professionals. Now listen, it's like your friend group. Can you vent to everybody? Yes, but is everybody qualified for that conversation? I don't always agree. You see what I'm saying? For me, I'm listening to who's educating me in which space. So like granted, when you understand in real estate, can you buy a house going off certain metrics? Yes. The underwriter will and will not approve you based on certain things. But when somebody's having a conversation with you about the numbers, what they say, the numbers don't lie. Like, listen, hey, listen, it's not that these tenants will help offset the mortgage. Hell, if you don't have these tenants based upon your income, you can't afford this mortgage. Having those realistic conversations and based upon what we used to call lifestyle numbers, it's like your lifespan. If the mortgage is 2,000 and I got 4,000 in my bank, I got 2 months to live. It's like looking at certain things for certain scenarios. For me, it was always important to understand what was being told to me, what my options were, kind of like with you, and how the conversation was brought up. Early on, we trying to secure this, Tyrone. I know you eager because, but I tell people sometimes too. I'm like, I can be a little anxious, and I'm not telling people like, hey, I could be gullible. But it's a way in which I say certain things. I may say sometimes I can move fast in certain aspects. If it's something that I'm moving too fast on, please bring something else to my attention. But also letting people know that I'm not paying attention too.
For sure. But I think we were talking about something two totally different things. At the time, I think at the time, you were concerned about meeting the mortgage.
Yeah.
And I was concerned about whether or not, okay, they can help you meet the mortgage, but if they tear up your property,
If it was a good fit, if it
yeah,
was a
if
good
it was
fit
a
on
good
property.
fit, if this situation was a good fit, or in longevity, will you continue to be able to meet this mortgage? You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
for
Like
sure.
that's what I was thinking about at the time. Like they're gonna cause you and your family
Yeah,
hell.
yeah. And I think like you say, when you had that conversation to be like, look, if we wrap it around kind of like the point you making, it's like, look, Tyrone, like we talk about, all this should have worked if it worked, right? Will it work? If they pay, yeah, yes, yes. But also to say, are you prepared to recoup your investment year 5? Like having those conversations. Not year 1, not year 2, not year 3, year
Year
4,
five.
what I'm saying? Stuff like that. It's like, hey, year 5. Like, helping people understand, like, hey, in these scenarios, are you okay? If you say no, then maybe you need to have a different conversation. I used to have a friend, which also was a client of mine, and he said, I'm okay if I break even. I said, do you know what that means? For him, it's like, as long as the mortgage can get paid, I'm cool. I say, what happened when the taxes go up? What happened if these expenses go up? What happened when your insurance go up? Because it goes from breaking even to being below water. Having those conversations and also having thought-provoking people in your Rolodex, in your lives that, what I'm saying, that comes, highly recommended or not always highly recommended. I got to watch it because that's a word that we use interchangeably because everybody highly recommend. That's the thing. Look at these people. That's
These
the thing. Look at
people.
me. That's how they get you. That's how they get you because you get this circle. What they say, the circle or whatever. I ain't gonna say circle CEO because that's like I'm attacking a certain group. But no, you get these circle where it's like, hey, this is the Ponzi. This is the Ponzi scheme. The reality of it is like, yeah, we will and deal together. And then only how it get exposed is that when one of the low people on the total pole, one of the things when they fall apart and then they start saying the truth. Well, you was scamming them on the taxes. Well, you was telling them to get bad loans. Well, you was telling these people I'm gonna do the construction, and you was doing overinflating the numbers. And then you realize, like, damn, they
Mhm.
got me. Then, with that being said, some people don't believe in one-stop shops. Some people prefer to have one-stop shops. Understand that if you meet a team and they saying you have to do everything with us, that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? I like the team I work with. I like the team I work with. Sometimes it is challenging working with outside people, but I would rather you work with who you trust than feeling like I persuaded you and then you gonna push back on everything I'm gonna say. Because if something don't work out and you noticing these things, you're gonna look at your team and say, I had a client like that one time. I recommended my inspector. We was going to the close, and it was coincidence. I mean, he was going to the property. He happened to see another inspector that was just in the area. I think he was probably seeing people, working on the house, whatever the case may be. He went up there and inspected. When I tell you he missed so much stuff, man, that house ended up flooding and some more stuff. And it's an unfortunate situation. It's not a I told you moment. It's just that some people just not qualified.
I mean, I think it definitely is not a I told you, because any of this stuff is not like, I don't get any kind of like good feeling like, oh yeah, you should have listened to me, because I don't care about that, because I wasn't telling
No,
you this for me to
no,
be
no.
right in the first place. Like, I don't get no warm fuzzy feelings, but I do think like the funny thing that comes down to it is like when they come back, and that's what happens on my end. People come back and they be like, well, this happens. I don't really know what to say. You
Help me out of this.
And it's like, but you're not going to be able to afford that issue either, right? Like when you talk about, you were just mentioning one of the things where it comes down to like, can you break even? People think you're calling them poor. I don't think you could do anything when you call. I think it's excited. I don't necessarily feel like it's anxious. I don't think it's gullible, any of those words. I really think it's like excited at the opportunity, excited like, I really put all this, I really want this to happen, so to speak.
A milestone.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
think that those are the things that's when you are focused on the end result that you won't be willing to walk away. Sometimes I ask people, I say, how big and bad do you want me to go on this inspection list or
Oh
whatever?
yeah, because you go toe to toe. I'm trying to tell you, go. You in particular as well too. Like, hey, look, hey, we gonna go because it may rub the other side the wrong way. Do you want to? Are
Yeah.
you okay with potentially losing this deal for somebody protecting you of a certain way? Like, hey,
And that's what I have to do,
you gonna
because
stay?
if you're so gung ho about keeping this deal, then I'm not gonna go hard, because they can't walk and they're within their right to walk. And I want you to be in your right to walk, because again, this is probably one of the most expensive purchases you're ever gonna make in your life. I think if people thought about that psychologically, like
Yeah,
most people ain't
I think
fixing and flipping.
I keep thinking like as we talk about this and going into the psychological space, I think that we look at like what is our book of business. We saying like, okay, during this call, a lot of this information applies to all. But if we talk about the part of like our race, right? You know what I'm saying? Our race and stuff about how in some cases a lot of people been generational renters. Like you say, the things that they were negate to just get to the finish line. It's like, everybody motivated, reason for accomplishing these goals individually, or maybe I need to get my mama into a house and we can get it, all these different things. But just do understand that it's a lot more moving parts. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot more moving parts. You know what I'm saying? What they say, Kobe saying, job is not finished. Like, no, this is your responsibility. Hell, if it's snow outside and you don't shovel the snow and you work and somebody slip and fall and you like, wait, hold on, wait, they trying to sue me? Like, it's more than just the property. When you come out and get like a survey, understand that what's your property. You know what I'm saying? Like, you be like, damn, I didn't know that this could happen. Somebody slipped and fall on my property, or somebody trying to sue me, or somebody got hurt or harmed, and you don't protect yourself. It's like, nah, y'all, like, yeah, generational this. And I think that's just when we go into these things, like so many words that they use to just manipulate you. When they tell you a generational wealth, I think they just, you going behind them saying them. You know what I'm saying? You saying it too, I got generational wealth, and people just like, no, you don't. Like, man, what you hate? I'm hating. I'm just trying to tell you that, yeah,
You
like,
don't
no.
like
This one house, like, do you know what generations are? You start asking people, it's like you insulting. Like, do you know what a generation is? Like, you tell, in some cases, yes. Like, in some cases, yes. With the proper systems in place, with the proper upkeep, with the proper structure. Because
let me ask you a question. If you pass right now, how would your mortgage get paid? When we talk about generational wealth, one, you're leaving your family a bill. Let's just call it a spec. If you still have a
yeah,
mortgage on it, you're leaving your family a bill. Again, I'm not
yeah,
trying to knock you. And yes, okay, well, we were generational renters. The thing about it is they sold you that renting is horrible to make you feel lesser, because
yeah,
what nobody talks about is your rent is the cap of what you have to pay at
yes,
any given month. If you're buying, that's the minimum. Like you said multiple times, and I don't think people pay attention to this enough. If your insurance goes up, if your taxes go up, if something breaks, all of that is on top of your mortgage amounts.
Listen, I'm telling you, like, man, I didn't see my account and I slept good at night sometimes. And there's some times where I had to use my savings and reserves because that's what it's for, and separate the two, making that be known. You heard what I said, savings and reserves, because the reserves for the building, savings may be for personal. And I had to transfer what they say from the checkings to the saves. So
Yeah.
it happens. And what am I gonna do? Negate it? You know what I'm saying? Again, I put band-aid on certain stuff. Now I'm paying double.
Did you have that before? Like, were you cognizant about the need for reserves and savings before like things hit the fan, or did you just was that one of the things you learned as a part of your journey in your book of business?
I would say I learned. I think I like no different from like some people upbringing. I'll say some, it's not all. When people like you got to save some money, I think I was conscious to know to have some money put aside, but
Okay.
I learned how to separate the two. You know what I'm saying? Because for me early on, it was almost like I was trying like the same thing I tell you not to do. I was trying to live off the extras. You know what I'm saying? I was conscious enough because at the time I was a real estate broker as well too, and I was like, done with learning how to write a deal and doing this stuff. And I found like I got a good deal with challenges that I had to go through to turn into the even better deal, but understanding how to, separate the two, understanding how to put money to the side for the building or repairs and stuff like that for these incidentals, and properly turn the unit over, how to have these right people. A lot of parts of that business where I had to learn how to be an active investor. Like I had to learn some of those things the hard way. I learned through some hard ways, and some stuff people can tell you how to circumvent, and some stuff you just gonna go through. But it's some stuff that you can have in place. Like you say, if you got an attorney in place to say, hey, and I'm using this example twice, is that have water, sewer, backup coverage. If you're not your real estate, if you're insurance agent on tell you that, like if the city of Chicago floods and you don't have certain backup coverage, you don't have that covered. Now you're dealing with a house that you can't fix with a messed up basement, and it goes down. Like it's many different things that you're gonna go through that you're gonna learn the hard way, and some stuff that people have told you along the way and that you may have overlooked. Like, oh, I get to that. Like hell, a home warranty, something as small as an annual $500 and $600 warranty annually can go a long way from that furnace going bad. And you just call them and you paying a small deductible for service costs. Somebody just give you that nugget. Like when we close, I'm telling all, like, hey man, consider the home warranty, consider renewing. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's easy for me to tell you. And they just like, now it's like, yeah, now you 4 or 5,000. This is what I always said. This shit costs whether you got the money or not. That's I always said. It's black and white. This stuff costs whether you got the money or not. It's like, yeah,
And the
yeah,
pressure of it is if you're in that landlord sphere versus just your house, like you can live in squalor all you want to. If you want to live in squalor with a bad basement, whatever the case may be, no issue is gonna come of it.
yeah.
You can't
I'm
make
okay
me
with
live in squalor.
I'm okay with my leaky sink. I dump the water out every week. But
Yeah, like
now you
you
say,
can do that. You and
yes,
your kids and your wife and your husband, whatever, you can do that. That's not up to code for you renting and getting rent money from somebody. I
yeah.
don't care if it's only $500.
There's
You
a
gotta
tenant
give them out.
or you want people to be, you know what I'm saying? It's a business. I do my part, you do your part, I'm gonna pay you, I'm gonna provide this level of service. But I still feel like there's so much free advocacy for renters here in Cook County. It's crazy. It's gonna cost you to go to court. It's gonna cost you to go without. And they just got free attorneys. You gotta pay for your attorney. Ain't no free landlord attorney per se. You know what I'm saying? That's going,
Oh,
you know
it's
what I'm
not.
saying?
And
Wow.
I think that that's true. The thing that's why I say the business. Oh, off the bare minimum, I'm finna tell you, you're a business. Like whether you got an LLC, whether it's in your name, whatever. If you're a landlord, you're a business. When it comes, you all don't have equal bargaining power. Like you
Yeah.
just don't. But you do stuff to help
They not
landlords out. I've seen some stuff on your Instagram page where you do things to help landlords out. Do you still do those
yeah.
things? Tell us
I do.
about it.
So for me, kind of like what I realized is like to the point of what you're saying is that there's a lot of misinformation out here. There's a lot of things that's vague, right? Some people give you half the story. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of the things. Or some people give you all that they have, right? And you take it in your mind and you say that this is how this more than likely should be the way it should end. Some people manipulate their minds to thinking that this is right in their own mind because they heard as much that they seem to think that it's true. For me, I try to create an environment where I make it, down to earth. I try to make it more presentable while also giving factual information. Like I just put a video up the other day with some, what you call a word that we like stuff that goes viral, some viral background noise or and stuff that I can use to incorporate into my videos to let people know that this is some stuff that happens in certain situations. The one I'm talking about is like somebody was yelling in the background, but the reality of it is you may serve a tenant and it can get hostile. Letting people know, like, no, everybody is not going to be a passive aggressive person, or somebody's not always going to be, quiet and easy going. Like, no, people unfortunately lose their life or create domestic disputes amongst these different things. You are business. You are not the Cook County Sheriff. You are not the FBI. Don't be going there telling us I'm going to go ahead and kick the door open and you lose your life or somebody else lose their. Like, these are like you say, this is the worst case scenarios and this stuff. When people like, you need to pay my rent money up and then you can go knock on these people's houses and or kicking doors. And yeah, I do try to overly communicate the alternative. It's not just always. I put up a post the other day. I say, listen, landlord been kicking my ass lately. And I went into detail to tell people the ways in which it have. And people, was chiming in. Like, now again, I got this. I'm the, the brave one to be able to tell people this. And now you got everybody else who, like, even some, other people that's like, oh, the people that project certain information, they in the DMs. The people that's just like going through it as well, they in the comments. That's one thing I'll let y'all know. Like, y'all don't see what goes in the direct messages. The people that's giving you these information or ill-advised information, they'll get in the DMs that you can't see because they're trying to keep up certain personas and stuff. But the people that's going through it and fell victim to people that, persuaded them to that, I get a lot of that. I had a real estate community that I offered where I was giving people options where they didn't even have to work on me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this information that can help your broker. This is something that can help you. This is, what I'm saying? I was creating environments because my wife used to hear me all the time say, like, yeah, that's true. She said, if you're going to say, well, just educate people. Because I always had this thing where I want people to know, my personality. I'm like, I ain't no hater, but I didn't want to always come and like put the side-by-side video and say, that's true, but this. I just really just spent time like telling people like these are alternative ways to things. That way I didn't feel like I was dragging certain people under the bus. But I'm also letting you know that, no, I did not put a tenant in this building and collect rent and generation wealth that was the end of it. Hell, they moved out of the year and they caused more damage than the profit that I made on it. And I lost it. Like, no.
Ain't no security deposit because you live in Cook County, and if you live in Cook County,
I
it's
had a
keep
move-in.
security deposit. Okay.
The move-in fee was half of this, or it was this, or what environments, what neighborhoods do you invest in? What may be classified as, A class, B class, C class, all these different things that goes into these journeys. But for the most part, I think we just look at it as you, the consumer, or what are you subscribing to? And I think that some people are consuming too much information. Like, there's nothing wrong with educating yourself, but I think it's just like when again, it's like my barber used to tell me sometimes, like, man, get your haircut. This when I was a kid, like, man, get your haircut. I'll come in and be like, hey, man, cut my hair like this. Show him a video and he like, that's not you. You know what I'm saying? It's like your hair growth, your texture is different. This is different. The same in the business. Your credit score is different. Your work history is different. Your bank statements is different. And like all is different.
And it hurts. Like, let's be very clear. It hurts. Yeah. Like when you want this cute, when you want an Aaliyah hairstyle, and you ain't Aaliyah, and you don't have hair like Aaliyah.
Your hair don't grow right here. You got bald spots.
Yeah, like it hurts to hear that y'all are not equally situated, but the person who gave you that style, like you said, with no regard, you left out of that mad at them. Like, why they do this to me? You're so right.
And then you got people who can get you that. You say, well, he can do it, but they ain't tell you like, okay, well, look, I'm finna doctor up your statements. I'm about to falsify your tax returns. I'm about to do this, and then when you get an IRS audit, you know what I'm saying? Because we speaking on this, no hating, this no, you getting IRS audits. They talking about you on for these returns, or this is occurring. Certain people knocking at your door, they questioning this, they questioning that. And it's like, to your point, Brittany, like, this is the other side. Some people will tell you like, hey, I'm gonna take you there, but hey, and I'm not saying I'm gonna.
I don't necessarily know if people know that part, because I'll just use the PPP loan scheme that people were doing. Everybody that was submitting false records, everybody didn't know that people were submitting false records on their behalf. Like, they literally was just saying, oh, I can get you this amount of money. And then it's all coming out now. Like, when they're getting criminally charged, let's be very clear, when the person, not the person that you paid to do your application, they're not getting criminally charged. When you are getting criminally charged, now I didn't see that. I didn't feel that out. Like, all of these things are happening because why? Because
and then
they take you there.
The attorneys or the judge looking at you like, you should ask more questions. And you end up balling. You end up balling. You end up. But for some people, it's like, hey, I gotta Gotta do the crime for the time. But I mean, I gotta do the time for the crime. But some people like, you thought it would be easier to turn the other cheek. And I think that goes back to a lot of this is what we're seeing is that turning the cheek is not always gonna be your benefits. Turning the cheek to say, get me to the finish line, or I'm gonna overlook, is that being classified as turning the cheek, to say, I'm gonna overlook this and now it's pressing. You gotta realize, like, when you tell people like, hey, we understand that you want to close this house little to no money down, me, i.e., I'm gonna give an example. Oh, instead of them fixing these repairs, I'm gonna ask for a credit. Well, you got the credit and the credit benefited you, but these items still exist.
Yeah.
When they start, what I'm saying, they told you that this needs to be serviced or that needs to be addressed, and it starts to help come to fruition, and you didn't like properly plan for this stuff, you overlook this. I think that there's just a culture that we have within our race. I think that mainstream media is doing a good job of like waving these different things, and you seeing it being, you know, maxed out credit cards and a lot of stuff. Like I said, a lot of us firsthand can just say that we did. I thought that, hey, I think at the time I bought like 2 properties at the time. And though I can purchase, like you say, the ability to purchase certain things and afford them is different. Man, I went and got me a brand new 750. I went and got me a BMW. I say, shit, I'm a landlord. I'm supposed to look like this. I'm supposed to look like that because they told me that I was rich. My net worth was, because the building was worth this, so my net worth is this. I'm a million. You know what I'm saying? Just psychologically wrong or misguided or misled, or just certain things you got to take accountability for. Is that I didn't do certain things. I didn't do certain things a certain way or ask more questions, or to actually just live within my means at the time. That those things go hand to hand. Your first house don't have to be a dream house.
I want you to discuss, because I feel like you've done all of the different things of owning property with your guys. Like, I want to talk about that too, because I do feel like that's a big thing if you're open to it. Like your experience, not saying whether or not you would recommend it or anything, but they talk a lot about that too on social media. And we haven't touched on that. Like owning property with people that you are not married to. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I think that I can speak on that from different scenarios. Whenever you do those decisions, we're going to again plug back in attorney to professionals. Put it in writing. Put it in writing, because when you're going back to what's law, what you talk about, SOPs, operating procedures, or what's the ownership interest, 33 and a third, and whatever the case may be, how do we vote to make a decision? How is the collectors? Because as I like to say it, you can't get in the bed with everybody. And what they say, don't bro me if you don't know me. It's bros that you think you know that you really don't know. You don't know them under pressure. You don't know them under financial strengths and things of that nature. You have to do your due diligence across the board. And that's for relatives, that's for friendships. Going into that, looking at it, it's like you have a relationship with somebody that you got along with, y'all establish a mutual friendship, right? Because everybody's friend versus social or business partners and things like that. And you choose to invest in them across the states, right? Places you never been, things you never seen. And then when stuff go left, then you just like, you get taken advantage of. I say that to say is like, understand who you get in the bed with, understanding what's going on, and don't be quick to do and conduct business with everybody that presents to you a potential business opportunity. Don't lose the ability to do your due diligence. Also, when you come to make the decision to do these certain things, like for me, I was fortunate enough to have a diversified group where collectively we all shared similar interests and backgrounds and financial backing, meaning like, did we have X amount of reserves? Do we all share equally credit? Do we all have active income? Yes. But then some people build organizations and partnerships to say that, hey, you don't have to have everything. I got the credit, I got the construction, I got this. But sometimes those people fall apart because they don't have this, which would be the contractual agreements, the things that say, if we don't agree with something, what do we consider to be a happy medium, or what do we consider to be the decision maker, or like you got structures within companies and businesses. Stop running yours like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like just a hobby. Like, hey, this is a business. Are you having meeting minutes? Are you doing these things? I think it's important too. You got to grow. You have to bring people up amongst your team to grow in certain capacities, but you got to understand that you can't be eager to grow with everybody. You know what I'm saying? I got group chats I'm a part of, and not everybody I can conduct business with. I got some people who may say, hey, I want to sweep and stuff under the rug if something happened. And I understand as a friend, like, I can't do business with you, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no attack on you. Just the way we do business is different. I got some friends who are like, hey, the light bill due on the 1st, I want it paid on the 25th. Whether that's financial trauma or just the way that they practice it. To say, look, if you want to pay your bill on the 27th after it's due, I mean, well, right before I don't want to deal with that because I don't like the, you know what I'm saying? You have to understand and have these conversations, like you said, have the, if this don't work out, what are we going to do? Hopefully I
What did
touched on.
you did? You did a great job in that. What we are told is that men don't think that deep about it. I want to know from your gender specific, like, did you find that hard to do? Because y'all could be friends versus women. They say women, we fall out with everybody. We best friends, then fall out, whatever the case. That, but men can be friends with anybody on basically on a surface level. Did you find that hard to determine, like, oh no, I can't do business with these people, or was it one of the things that was kind of easy for you to deduce?
For me, when I look at a lot of things, I don't want to be affiliated with yes men because for yes men, for me in one capacity, it doesn't challenge me for growth, right? And I don't think it's beneficial to where we're gonna go because if that's the case, then I'm just the decision maker, right? And if I'm in a room full of people that you can say, okay, Tyrone, whatever you say goes, which I've been a part of, in my opinion, sometimes it's more detrimental. They do more harm than good. But then when I'm in a room with aggressors, right? And aggressors could be categorized as different things, know-it-alls and all these different things. Now you're in a business where you got friction. I think when you look at certain things, you got certain type of people you want to be around, open-minded people you want to be around, these type of people, thought-provoking people, these type of things. You want to be people that are these people by the book. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, do you want an electrician to say when I repair this, or mechanics to say I'm gonna do it by code, or I'm a Jimmy Rig? Like being able to be around those people because I understand if I get affiliated with this friend, he okay with bending the rules. That's all I say. He or she is okay with bending the rules. If you leave them responsible for certain tasks, and you find out certain rules to be broken that may directly impact you, then that's also a representation of you as well too. Understanding that as well too. I think all those things are very important.
I think that that is amazing. And I thank you for your time. Any last words you want to tell the
Yeah.
people?
Hey, don't be gullible. Like, no, but I don't. I think that the reality of it is we realize that people are not trusting their instincts. People are making decisions based upon what they see. And what you see can be, we see magic, right? It can all be considered an illusion, right? Use other senses, use other practices other than with your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you know what I'm saying? Feel and touch and say, hey, like contracts, hey, you telling me that you're working on all these properties. Can I see them? Can I listen to other people that can vouch for the work that you did? And these not people that you are all related to. There's different senses we can use. What if it smell like boys? It maybe like use your sense. That's I guess that's
Exactly.
use your senses when you making these decisions. I guess that's my advice. I'm gonna start telling people, oh, use all of your senses, right? Not just the ones that's easily available, and when you making it, and then build you a team of trustworthy people too. You hear that a
And
lot of times.
I got one more question. And
What
this
it
is
is?
deep. This is deep. Do you recommend being a landlord?
Do I do I recommend being a landlord?
Like,
I
do you
think
think like the positives outweigh the negatives at this point in your book of business and your life? Because I'm not talking about in 20 years. 20 years, we could have a completely
yeah.
different situation, but
To
your
be
quality
honest,
of life now, do you recommend it?
I'll be honest, right? For me, 2025, I was questioning my decision to be a landlord here in Chicago, right? Because
Okay.
I felt like that the business was more favorable to tenants than it was to landlords, and I felt like that it negatively impacted my business. Do I recommend people to be a landlord? Yes, I do. I encourage people to recognize and realize what type of landlord they want to be. And for what reasons, I would say yes, because I always tell people you don't have to own where you live, right? People say, oh, you could be a renter. Like I don't shy around people. Just own something. You know what I'm saying? Like if that's your goal to invest in something, they have other forms of real estate investments. You can do crowdfunding, you
Mhm.
can invest in syndications, like that type of thing. When you say landlord, you don't have to be the one directly. You can put your investment up, and then you can get monthly checks and deposits. Again, earlier, like I was saying, you got people that invest for depreciation, right? My biggest thing is that yes, do I recommend people to be landlords that's interested in real estate, but recognize what type of landlord do you want to be, right? You have more than one sector in real estate. You have residential, you have commercial, you have manufacturing, you have land, you have all these different things. Am I pro landlord? Yes. Am I pro knowledge of what sector? Yes. It's not always what's present. You got mobile parks, people own trailer homes. You know what I'm saying? Like real estate, boat docks. You know what I'm saying? You're a landlord. Somebody parked their boat at a boat slip. Somebody have a organization that owns that. You know what I'm saying? This office that I'm in, you know what I'm saying? That I'm in. Landlords are more than just the house and the that you live in, the farm. So
Well, that is
yeah, so
amazing. Thank you. That
No
was great
problem.
advice.
Shout out to Britt.